you discovered that you had skin cancer and thyroid cancer. And I'm not sure which came first or if they're both related, but if you don't mind, just sort of start from the beginning and take us through that journey.
I was going to my doctor, being treated effectively for the lupus and lupus nephritis, which is the kidney, the renal side of lupus. And my kidney doctor, my nephrologist, being a great doctor, decided to check my lymph nodes up here, these lymph nodes, and thought that there was a nodule or a swelling in the thyroid. So, I had that biopsied, and in fact, it turned out to be cancer. I've been quite successful, in dealing with that, but thank God it was caught so early. And, thank God I went to my doctor, and I had such a great doctor. As people, and maybe men more so, as we get older, we still think we're 21 and bulletproof, but we're not, and the parts wear out. So we need to sort of make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. Again, a lot of people count on us. In a way, it's kind of selfish not to do it, I think.
What was it like to hear those words, which you were not expecting by any shot, to come out of your doctor's mouth? Can you take us through that moment?
Yeah, it's surreal is the right word. You really don't believe it's happening to you. But then it's all about, what do we do next?
What did you do next? Like, one of the challenges that we hear people say, you go into this mode where you're trying to learn everything that you can. And sometimes the resources are hard to come by. I mean, what did you do next? And what advice would you have for people who may be in that spot themselves right now as they're watching, or know somebody who is?
I think part of it is picking your team, having confidence in your healthcare providers and trusting them. It's not a perfect answer. Nobody really understands cancer. So I think putting trust in your healthcare team, it doesn't always end maybe the way you want, but, there's a reason for it. And, I found it was an opportunity to get a little closer to God. You find some strength inside that you don't know you have sometimes. The message I want to deliver was one of prevention. I've dodged 8 bullets, if you will, and I'm blessed. But it's because, I went to the doctor. I listened to my body and my spouse, and I wasn't stubborn, refusing, to get looked at. And it's a minor inconvenience if you catch it early, but it could be a deadly mistake if you wait too long.
Your father had a cancer journey story, and
he died of colorectal cancer. It's going to be 8 years, but he was sort of that generation that didn't want to get checked. He was able to live a long time with it, given the time it was caught, but it would have probably been a whole nother story if he would have caught it early. I was there when he died. I held him when he died. It's a real tough thing to go through. You just wonder what it could have been.
This is not entirely, though, where your cancer story begins and ends, because there was you also struggled with skin cancer and melanoma. Are those two things tied together? And where did that fit in when you were dealing with thyroid?
When you're on an immunosuppressant, like I am, I was on several, your body's ability to fight back different viruses, disease, is more acute. So they warned me early on that I needed to go to a dermatologist. Frequently they'd find suspicious moles that they biopsied, and they were melanoma. And again, they were all early stage.
Is there any advice that you would have that perhaps you wish you would have known when you started this journey that you can tell other people?
Sure. I do have some advice. It's probably more spiritual than anything. Okay. And it's back to this idea of trusting and sort of letting go a little bit. But I think, trusting in our medical team and in our faith and in our family. With regard to the medical team, what I would say is if you don't like the advice, you should keep looking, keep asking questions. Don't stop on that either.
Thank you for sharing that. We really appreciate that.
Early detection is the key. Err on the side of being overreactive and having the doctors say, you're a hypochondriac. It's much better to guess wrong in that case. And then if something does occur, know that you'll have You'll have the resources internally and externally to get through it. You may not see that at the time, but it works out somehow, some way.
All right, Mike, it hasn't just been you in your family that has had a cancer diagnosis and has gone through that journey. Your father also had a cancer diagnosis, and
That's right.
I want to hear his story, and we want to know a little bit about him. Can you introduce who your dad was to the audience?
Absolutely. Not only has my dad had a journey, a story to tell, but my uncle, my mother, my grandmother, my other uncle, my cousin, there's been a lot of it in our family, different types of cancer. So it's definitely affected us profoundly. But my dad was my hero. His name is Mike too. I'm a junior. So he was always Big Mike and I was Little Mike. It's hard to put in words what a great guy he is, what a great guy he was. So he got diagnosed with colorectal cancer. Unfortunately, it was at a pretty advanced stage. He was able to fight through it for 7 or 8 years. He was a hell of a man, and I learned a lot from him. At the end, I actually held him in my arms when he died, and I would tell people, I'd say, my dad taught me everything. Even how to die. It's kind of hard to talk about it, but he was just the rock, and I'll never forget him.
I can see why you're the person that you are, certainly learning a little bit more about him. I know that it's hard to talk about, so we appreciate you opening it up and sharing it with us. Did he notice something was wrong? Was something happening? Was it part of a checkup? Walk us through, if you can, your dad's experience.
He was a tough guy. He didn't want to go to the doctor. He was an iron worker. Those are the guys that build the huge skyscrapers, and he just refused to address it. When the time came and he had a colonoscopy, it was confirmed. At that point, they did what they could do. But, he was just from that generation where you didn't show weakness. You never looked scared. You're always strong. He was always that way, even till the end. He was that guy. And unfortunately, it ended up causing him probably a premature death.
Can you talk directly to somebody who may be in that position? I think something's going wrong. I've gone down the Google rabbit hole. I think this may be what's going on, but I'm afraid to go get checked. And I haven't talked to anybody about it yet. What would you say to them?
I would say, obviously, get checked. It's not just about you. It's about other people. If you catch it early enough, there's a lot of things that can be done. Every day they're making progress.
With both men and women, that we hear early detection all the time, but why is it so hard? Maybe it's a mindset. Why is it so hard to do?
Honestly, until I lost my father, I probably wouldn't have given it the same attention either. It's not a gamble that is worth taking.
Can you share some of the experience that he had as he battled for, I believe you said 6 or 7 years? What was that like?
So 6 or 7 years, we obviously know my dad's battling this. We're hearing that he's in remission. One day he calls me and says, Mike, can you come down and meet with my doctors and me? I was surprised. It was the first time they had ever asked me to participate in any type of visit. So of course I went down. The doctor said, the treatments aren't working. It's my recommendation that you just take care of yourself and, enjoy whatever time you have with your family. And it was a total shock.
I was about to say, I don't know how good this is. First, you have no idea that this is coming. What is that like for you as well?
We thought he was in remission. He was really good at, keeping that bottled up, I guess. And I don't think my mother knew either, because, as I put it together, I think he was trying to out the issue. He wanted me to be there, hear it from the doctor, and then tell the rest of the family. I was like, did I hear that correctly, doctor? And, I did. And then I asked, well, how long are you talking? I mean, when you say quality of life, the rest of your life, what's the time frame? And, and he said, probably 6 months or so. And again, my dad didn't even flinch. So I suspect he already knew that information, and he was just trying to tell the rest of the family. Having a support system, I think, is really helpful. But that's also probably a generational thing.
You're right. Despite the fact that there is still resistance, perhaps, to sharing or crying, even, or going to the doctor, it is beginning to loosen its grip on, I think, our communities and our people. Looking back, is there anything that you want to share about your dad or about the story? Anything you think that's important for people to know that we haven't talked about?
He was a fighter. I think that's a lesson. Don't give up.
Thank you, Mike Jr.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate you doing all this.